Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And we've got a special guest to talk about the Bills-Dolphins matchup. Please welcome John Evenson. He is the sports director at CBS12 in West Palm Beach, down where the weather is not like it is in Western New York. And he was at
It was
Dolphins
a little bit chilly today, got to admit. A little chilly.
Yeah.
It was like low, maybe mid-70s. So I like it in my 80s. So not to, brag or anything.
Was Mike McDaniel saying, I wish it was colder? Was he doing that today?
He was not wearing that shirt today, but we'll see how the week progresses. I heard there's not going to be any snow or hail or any chance for, Bills Mafia to throw snowballs at the Dolphins this time around. So I think that they're very thankful for that.
Well, you know the weather up here. You used to work in Syracuse. You know what's going on here. So you know the upstate Western New York area. But let's talk a little bit about what you saw this week at practice with this team. The Dolphins found themselves in the playoffs after the rough stretch and everything that went on. They survived in that game against the Jets. They got a win. Now they go in the playoffs. And the first thing that becomes official today is it's not going to be Tua. Mm-hmm. That wasn't a big surprise, was it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, listening to morning talk radio this morning and just speaking to our viewers, there was some thought that, oh my goodness, will Tua be on the practice field today? Because if he is definitely going to play. And you can understand why. I mean, the reason why they're in the playoffs, even though it was Skylar Thompson kind of playing a mistake-free game against the Jets and Jason Sanders kicking that 50-yard field goal, was because of the success that Tua has had this season. 5 straight wins, 3 straight Player of the Week awards. All the doubters were kind of quieted there with him, leading in passer rating and a bunch of other categories. He's got the deep ball, the big play going that no one thought he could. So everyone kind of knows here, or is under the impression, the majority, that Tua needs to play in this game in order for the Dolphins to have a chance to win. Of course, he's played tight games against Buffalo twice this year. One of them was a victory. But I think ultimately when we heard the news that he was still in concussion protocol and Mike McDaniel had made the decision in light of that to work towards having Skylar Thompson, the rookie 7th round draft pick, start, even over Teddy Bridgewater, who's still dealing with that dislocated pinky. No huge surprise.
Yeah, we'll get to Skylar in a minute. I wanted to stay with Tua.
Yeah.
I think it's been fascinating to see what's happened to him in his time in Miami. It was tank for Tua, then they get him. And then from up here, it always looked like they were constantly trying to replace him with somebody, whether it was the guys who were there like Fitz or the guys who weren't there like Deshaun Watson or Aaron Rodgers or whoever they could trade for, or even Tom Brady, as we know, with whatever that was going on. And he's hung in there. Do you think that they are finally really prioritizing Tua, the guy now? And I'm saying this, I know he's not out of protocol, but I mean, even the idea of him coming back after the concussions and everything he went through this year, do you think it's about time Tua gets that from the Dolphins and they think about him long-term, not short-term?
Well, you've just hit on one of the many layers of the onion that makes today such a difficult news day, and Tua not being able to play in this playoff game. Coming into the season, head coach Mike McDaniel was basically hired for 2 reasons: to see what he could get out of Tua Tagovailoa and to make the playoffs. Now, as we know, we'll put that aside. They just made the playoffs. It was almost an epic meltdown to the season. But the relationship between Tua Tagovailoa and Mike McDaniel this season has been so clear that Mike McDaniel from the get-go took him under his wing, instilled him with this positivity that he's never had, at least in his pro career. And you could really tell that Mike McDaniel's main goal was to get Tua Tagovailoa where everyone, Dolphins fans and Dolphins management, wanted him to be. And And for that 5-game span, I mean, a few games in the first 3 games of the season, we saw a glimpse of it in those first 3 games, of course, then the victory over the Bills. But in that 5-game span when he was really riding high, there was networks flexing games so that we could see Tua Tagovailoa, so the nation could see Tua Tagovailoa heading into that West Coast trip. He was one of the big talks of the NFL, and seemingly McDaniel and Tua's relationship was a huge success story. But of course, there's the concussion layer of this onion, where at the end of that Buffalo game, there was potential head trauma. Next game against the Bengals, he's carted off the field. All these major, I don't even want to call them hiccups. They are big deal things that happened to Tua. And now with the second concussion, it is very difficult they're entering a very difficult situation. We're going into a playoff game now with the rookie quarterback, and fans are already looking towards next season, wondering how this team is going to come together. This was a 4-year plan. This is year number 4 with Chris Greer. And, they thought that they had finally found their quarterback, and there was proof of it midway through this season when they were 8-3. And now there's all these questions about his health. I saw someone tweet out a source that his net worth, for his value, I should say, for a contract at this point would be 6 years, $240 million. Is that the type of contract that you want to give, a quarterback entering the offseason with so many health concerns, with this concussion problem? He's not been cleared by doctors yet. And Mike McDaniel said today that he is starting to adhere to to the advice that the doctors are giving him, and seemingly is more aware of how serious this is moving forward.
Yeah, it is really something for Tua to be in this spot. And then the Dolphins, because we know the way this league goes. They care about the player, and I do believe they do, but they're going to care about the team, and they're going to care about themselves. And the money is where they speak. And, you see if there's an issue, they're not going to want to, it's going to be hard for Tua to find anybody to invest in him with that big money. Now, to flip to this week's game, with Tua being out, you've got Skylar Thompson. We know Teddy Bridgewater. Everybody has seen him. We've seen glimpses of Skylar. Mm-hmm. You said mistake-free, and that's the way he played. But they scored, 9 points until the safety at the end. That's not going to cut it against the Bills in a playoff game. Can Skylar Thompson win this game?
Well, here we go. I mean, what we have not seen from Skylar Thompson yet that will be required to beat the Buffalo Bills, or to even have a chance to beat the Buffalo Bills, are big plays, splash plays. You've got Tyreek Hill. You've got Jalen Waddle, the fastest duo. He wasn't able to do anything with those guys against the Jets. The running game will be key, of course, and that was implemented with the Jets. That helped them a lot. The O-line was pretty good. I know there's been a lot said about the Dolphins O-line over the years. Teron Armstead was not playing against the Jets. They will need him even more in this playoff game. He's dealing with all types of injuries. But again, mistake-free football, keeping the score low, time of possession. This was all stuff that they were able to do against the Jets. But now you're facing the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, rookie quarterback. McDaniel boasts about his sneaky athletic ability, being able to keep plays alive. But this kid is learning the speed of the NFL on the fly. And, we don't know for sure if this will be the game where he finally clicks into action. A lot is going to have to go right for this, for Skylar Thompson to have success.
It's a tough spot. I mean, it's a rookie. It's in Buffalo. It's against a team with a ton of emotion going through the whole Damar Hamlin thing.
Let me just say about that, every single Dolphins player who we spoke to today, some of them without even being prompted, made it very clear that the Buffalo Bills has been on their mind, as they have all of our minds over the past, what has it been, a week and a couple days now. One big burly player, I can't even remember who it was, started by saying, "Let me just tell you something about the Buffalo Bills." And I thought, oh gosh, here comes the trash talk. And then of course he went on a very emotional speech, for lack of a better word, of just how much his heart is with the Bills and how he's going to have to compartmentalize to really get that game face going and get back into game action.
Yeah, it's been really something fascinating here. And of course, the news this week that, DeMar's now out of the hospital. I think there's a possibility he's at the game on Sunday. Now, that's just speculating, but with the way he's been improving, it would be something to see. I'm going to go back to the offense for the Dolphins. You mentioned Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Great players, huge numbers. Most of that certainly with Tua. This is up to Mike McDaniel, isn't it, this week? I mean, it's not Tua. But if you're going to be the Dolphins and you're going to try to win this game and make big plays, it's got to be those two guys. I mean, they are mismatches for every defense, but Tua was able to get them the ball and make it work. Do you think the Dolphins will try to adapt the game plan? I mean, Thompson hasn't been able to do that, but just find ways, different ways to get the ball in those guys' hands.
We all know head coach Mike McDaniel is an outside-the-box thinker, but he has been criticized for his play calling this year. He's a rookie NFL head coach. That perhaps comes with the territory. But yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, big splash plays, big plays. You've got Tyreek Hill. That's why you brought him in to win games. You have Waddle, who just wants to do that waddle dance really badly in the cold confines of Buffalo, and we got to see that up there a few weeks ago. The Dolphins weren't on the winning end of that. Of course, Tua Tagovailoa was not able to pull off any magic on the Dolphins' final drive, but that type of a scene is what the Dolphins need in order to win up there. But I still say, with Raheem Mostert questionable, he was not at practice today. The running back we saw have all types of success up there a few weeks ago as well. The running game is so important in making all of this work. And for Thompson to be able to, have options. We did see Mike Gesicki get into the action more than we have all season long against the Jets. That's another thing McDaniel was criticized for, not involving him, because he was a big play guy last year and the year before. We got to see him do the TD celebrations all the time, and just nothing, crickets from Gesicki this season. Last week, we saw a little bit more of him. I think he had 4 receptions, which was a lot for him, while Tyreek and he led all wide receivers, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So that might be a sign of things to come as well, to just get everyone going. But I think getting the running game going first is key in this one, so you can have all the other splash plays.
Mike McDaniel went from young genius and all that to the heavy criticism to, I mean, there was, again, we see this all the time, but there was talk of, could he be a one and done guy in Miami if they didn't make the playoffs? Does making the playoffs cool that down a little bit, or do you think that would still be? I mean, the reason I bring that up is there's always the volatility with the Dolphins with ownership. And I mean, we see now that, the former Saints coach is out running around, and he's the guy that was on the mind of the Dolphins before. And, with Tom Brady and all that stuff, I wouldn't put anything past, Stephen Ross to say, if I want Sean Payton, I'm going to go get him. Yeah. Do you think that's still a viable thing even after making the playoffs?
I don't. And even if they had not made the playoffs, I really feel like Mike McDaniel has made an impact here within the organization, within the locker room. I mean, you can't talk to a player whose eyes don't light up when you mention that head coach, and they seem to have this special relationship with him. And with all the injuries the Dolphins have dealt with this year, the biggest being, of course, now Tua Tagovailoa, who's not able to play. They're 3-4 quarterbacks deep. You've got Raheem, who wasn't practicing today. I mean, Raheem Mostert, Teron Armstead, Brandon Shell, Eichenberg, all the Ingram, the list goes on and on. I think it's clear, you can see that during the latter part of the season here, with Tua Tagovailoa as the forefront, this is something that is not Mike McDaniel's fault. and that Mike McDaniel did have Tua on the right path to success. It's just these concussions bit everyone in the you-know-what. So I guess more of a question might be, these injuries did not come out of nowhere. It was known that Tua Tagovailoa might be, had a history of injuries and could be, as well as Teron Armstead. They signed him to that massive contract. He has an injury history. There was talk of that being kind of risky, and all of these things are kind of coming back to haunt them right now, just from a GM perspective, making these decisions. And it's just all is this perfect storm of disaster that almost, but I will say Dolphin fans are used to a total disaster over the years. We're used to a total meltdown that results in a New York Jets game-winning field goal there and missing the playoffs.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a different feel this time. It's almost like Mike McDaniel is the guy because, oh my goodness, for the first time ever, we actually squeezed into the playoffs, and it's not the ideal playoff game coming up by any stretch of the imagination with all the injuries and playing a powerhouse like the Bills. At least it's something,
Yeah.
And I think, there's more people on Mike McDaniel's side than off it. In fact, a large majority of fans around here have really taken to this head coach. They think that he's the guru that we hope he will be.
It's funny, John. This was 6 years to the day as on Wednesday that Sean McDermott was hired as the Bills head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And he came in, and in his first year, this team had the drought of 18 years without making the playoffs. And they had some moments at the end of that season. They got blown out twice.
It's still, I can't believe that number, but go ahead. I've forgotten how long it had been. Yeah.
Yep. He got blown out twice. And then he had the game where he benched Tyrod Taylor and played Nathan Peterman out in San Diego.
Yeah.
And Nate threw the 5 interceptions in one half. And he could have lost the team at that moment. And they fought back and they won. Tyrod came back and they ended up making the playoffs. And it wasn't a very good team, but they somehow snuck in down in Miami, winning that game, and then having the Bengals game for the help on the other side when the Bengals beat the Ravens.
Yeah.
But he got them in. And then the next year they took a little step back, but they got Josh Allen, and then they've gone on from that point. But there was a ton of criticism of Sean McDermott in that year one. And sometimes you have to say to yourself, if you're an owner, I would think, it's not perfect, and it may not be perfect, and he may not be the guy. But I don't know how these teams turn on a coach in a single year with so much that goes on in a season.
I mean, the devil's advocate argument is they brought in, Tyreek Hill and Teron Armstead, and they built this team to win. I mean, heck, they were Super Bowl contenders at one point, 8-3, right up there on top of the AFC East with you guys. And then just an absolute a meltdown that led to the Tua's second concussion. And then it was just spiraling down from there. And luckily, they were able to will themselves to win on Sunday.
Yeah. All right. Last two things. You mentioned the fans. And I've talked to people in Miami before about the refrain has been same old Dolphins, same old Dolphins. And then they come back a little this year. They were really good. And it's become more of a Miami Heat town because they're a winner than it has been a Dolphins town. Up to this point, and we don't know what's going to happen on Sunday. Have they earned that back with the fans? I'm not saying they're number one again, but do you think they've earned that, or is it still a wait and see on the Dolphins with the fans in Miami?
Are you talking about just the excitement surrounding the Dolphins in South Florida?
And are they going in a direction where it's less same old Dolphins and more like they made progress, there's certain things going that way, and it's at least going in the right direction?
Listen, Dolphin fans have thick skin, and they have to kind of laugh at themselves and the circumstances sometimes to just keep themselves sane. But let's just continue on this point here, and I'll get to finally answer your question. The last 3 quarterbacks to start a playoff game for the Dolphins, Chad Pennington, Matt Moore, who had to start for Ryan Tannehill in 2016, and now once again, Skylar Thompson, third-string quarterback. So there always seems to be something late in the season and into that first game of the playoffs. and it's just it's almost like deja vu again. But I really, really do think that Tua Tagovailoa has captured the heart of this Dolphins fan base, as has Mike McDaniel. The two of them together, that relationship I talked about earlier, we really got to see big glimpses of what is possible here. Now, of course, the that's so Dolphins thing is like, now there's all this worry, and so there should be, about moving forward with Tua health-wise, right as he was starting to prove all of his doubters wrong. But everyone got caught up in this season. When they were 8-3, all anybody wanted to talk about with me, wherever I went, was the Miami Dolphins. Do you think they can win the Super Bowl? It got more exciting than I've experienced it over the past decade. Yeah. So yes, big name guys like Tyreek Hill here, Tua Tagovailoa, the waddle, all the flash. It's definitely leaps and bounds. Over the past, since the hiring of Mike McDaniel, leaps and bounds, the popularity of this team and the anticipation of what's possible has increased.
Yeah, I saw a shot of Dan Marino on the sidelines after the win, and every time I think about these two teams, I think of Marino and Kelly, and I think of the great rivalry in the 90s, and they met in the playoffs. Actually, the Bills beat them a couple of times on their way to the Super Bowl back then. I think the division is better. I think the league's better when the Dolphins and the Bills are good and they're rivals, and maybe the Patriots are the ones that take the step down. So I do think there's a sense in Western New York that they like Bills and Dolphins. They got sick of the Patriots because they beat everybody. And
just those two classic uniforms alone. You talk about the memories that they create. I mean, my goodness, you're right.
Yeah. So it's nice to see them in the playoffs. The last time these teams met in the playoffs, 1999, I was there for that one. And Doug Flutie was the quarterback for the Bills. Jimmy Johnson was the coach for Miami, and he walked in the locker room and ripped up Flutie Flakes for the whole team. So have things changed in the last 23 years?
I had a box of Flutie Flakes. I grew up in Toronto, so we were big into Doug Flutie, and I think I ate that cereal for the time that was available in the grocery stores.
Yeah, Flutie Flakes were big, and Jimmy wanted to make sure that the Bills didn't get it. Hey, we're looking forward to it. You're coming up to Western New York. I think it's going to be a fun atmosphere. Let's see what kind of game we ended up getting, but I know you're looking forward to coming up.
Have to keep the score low, but good luck against Josh Allen. I mean, the defense is going to have the game of the season from a Miami perspective.
All right. Well, thanks very much again, John. We always let everybody know where they can follow you, maybe on social media, maybe on Twitter is usually where fans try to find you.
Yeah, Twitter is at Evenson CBS12. That's EVENSON. Hit me up anytime, and you can see the other perspective as I head to Buffalo on Friday.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you up there at Highmark Stadium, and we thank John Evenson again from West Palm Beach for joining us.
Hey, Mike, I ordered through Amazon. I ordered my gloves. I ordered my beanie. I ordered my scarf. And some thermal underwear. Any other suggestions?
It's not even going to be that cold.
I'll be cold.
It might even be sunny.
My body has become accustomed to this weather, so
I can see.
You'll see me way overdressed.
Well, our trip to Miami, was crazy hot.
Yeah,
when we were down there for that game. So, but we're giving you regular cold, not brutal cold. But you'll feel it. You'll feel it. You will feel it on Sunday afternoon. That's going to do it for us this time. We thank everybody for being with us. Once again, we ask you to like, comment, and subscribe to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. For John Evenson, our guest, we're talking about the Bills and the Dolphins. I'm Mike Catalana. We'll see you next time here on Buffalo Plus.
See you, Bills Mafia.